Hey guys, how's it going? This is going to be another episode for Lord's Lessons. Today I decided I was going to kind of go off topic a little bit from what I had been doing, and I wanted to kind of cover something a little bit more recent in events. So basically, what I decided to do today is cover the issue of racial disparity in America, and with its focus being mostly on the Baltimore riots and the events of late involving police brutality and the rioting and the looting and things like that as far as America goes. Um, First off, I don't really watch the news much, but I tend to check my news from Yahoo, the little scroll home thing where they update pretty often. Um, I check that almost every day, whether it's at work or at home, and that's how I get the variety and majority of my news, really, since I don't watch it on TV. Um, but basically, it seems like lately it's been more and more prevalent that there's an issue between police officers and the minorities in America. Now, I can understand a little bit of it, but at the same time, I have a hard time grasping why lately it's been such a repeated issue. If you look back in history, there's been quite a few issues with police brutality, especially within the LAPD. Back to the Watts riots and back to Rodney King. I think that was his name. That was a pivotal moment for Los Angeles as far as curtailing the corruption and the police brutality and the overuse of power and misuse of power, physical, monetary, emotional, everything that curtails um, the mishandling of proper police power. But, I look at it now and I see some similarities between those events of the past and the events of now. However, there is one big difference that I'm seeing. All of these incidents are isolated incidents. It's not one department, it's not one area, it is across the nation. Now, that tells me that either people are losing control more easily, or we have a bigger problem as far as crime control, because obviously the police are not going to be handling these issues if there was not an issue to begin with. And if there was never an issue to begin with, then we have a bigger problem at hand. But yet, of all the interaction that police has with civilians on a daily basis, where the vast majority of civilians are law-abiding people, it's the few that are not that tend to make the headlines. You know what I mean? You never hear as often about a police officer rescuing someone from a dangerous situation or helping the needy or just spreading a positive message or to do something positive out of their way while in the line of work. Now, it does make the news when someone is killed who it seems was killed wrongly, unjustly, or with a misuse of power or by mistake of fact or, whatever. And unfortunately, lately, I feel like the issue has been transformed into an issue of black versus white. And you can't deny the fact that, yes, in these cases, and many cases for some reason, police officers in America tend to be, you know, ethnically not diverse. There's a vast majority of white police officers. Depending on the area that you're at, too. I mean, it all depends on that. But it seems like they're making it out to be not an issue of police versus civilian rights and power. They're making it into an issue of black versus white. And as a result, unfortunately, it's bringing with it a lot of negativity and in the end it's causing rioting, looting, and, you know, just a lack of respect for police in general and for the police officers that were not involved in whatever the issue may be. If it's an isolated incident within an area, to me, that means that you should deal with it individually. And honestly, if I were the parents of a victim of police brutality, where it was in fact police brutality, where they had no justifiable cause to do what they did, I would not want people to be out rioting, because that's not the true meaning of um, being against something. To me, it is not taking physical action to that extent. If it were something much larger than an isolated incident between a few police officers and a civilian, a victim, a criminal, whatever have you, whoever it is, if it was something bigger than an isolated incident, then yes, we should take action. However, if it's an isolated incident like they have been, we have to trust in the system to take care of the problem at hand. We as people, the people, cannot take it into our own hands. At that point, it basically turns into martial law. And when it becomes martial law, then we have no structure, we have no order. But getting back to what I was saying, basically the point I'm trying to get across is, when you look back at peaceful picketing, peaceful marching, peaceful opposition against something that has happened. The most famous example obviously is Martin Luther King, but there have been so many others in the past across the world that have made a far greater impact on making a change when it was done peacefully, rather than destruction of property, destruction of the area in the city, just being violent is what I'm basically trying to say. Violence does not bring change. Violence breeds hatred. And I think anybody can agree with that. So to me, it's like I said, it should never be an issue about black or white. It's an issue of police power versus civilian right. Now, for those of you that don't know, I work in the justice system. I work with juveniles. And it's in the same manner that I can see both sides. Not fully, but I can understand why people are mad on both sides. On one hand, you have the victims who feel they have been wronged, in which case they very well may have been. But on the other side, you have to see, if you were in the shoes of the peace officer, what would you have done? Did they make a mistake? Very possible, yes. Could they have handled it differently? Of course. But in any given situation, you can never really truly understand and predict how you're going to react. Mistakes will be made. That's human error. Does it sometimes result in catastrophic loss of a life? Absolutely. And by no means am I excusing any peace officer from making a wrong decision. We have to pay for the wrongdoings that we have. That's without question. But then again, that's the point that I'm getting across, is that that's why we have a justice system to handle that. And if there are flaws within the justice system as a whole, which I am very sure there are, we cannot muscle our way through solving them. Anger will not solve it. It will only complicate and breed more hatred. Police power. It has its purpose, of course. The vast majority of people that live are good, law-abiding citizens, and it's the very small percentage of people that refuse to live by the laws that we have set, and they choose to break them. And that's a complete choice made by those people, and they have to answer for their wrongdoings when the time comes, when they are faced with it. But as I said before, police power needs to be kept in check. It cannot be given too much power too freely. And on the other side of the coin, like I said before, civilian rights is something that has been a very staple part of American philosophy, and the entire premise upon which the country was made was that we are all created equal and we have unalienable rights. And those need to be respected by police and by anybody else. And when that line gets crossed, absolutely you have a reason to stand up. You have a reason to fight back. But there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it. Rioting in the streets and looting and assaulting police officers who had nothing to do with the incident that you're mad about, when, in all honesty, you never even knew the person that was offended. And until all the facts come out, how do you know exactly what happened? What if everything that the police officer did was in accordance with what he should have done? At what point do you take it into your own hands to serve justice on somebody that had no bearing in it at all? You know, people assaulting the SWAT team members or the police officers that are trying to simply just keep the peace because these rioters cannot keep their emotions in check. At what point does it cross that line? That's basically what I want to say about that. You know, you can be opposed to something. There's nothing wrong with being opposed to something. In fact, I think most people should be opposed to almost everything, because if you don't oppose it, you can't find the flaws. And when you don't find the flaws, nothing changes. But again, this is the final point that I would like to make about this. And I know that a lot of this has just been kind of nonsensical rambling, and I hope that I'm making a little bit of sense here, but in the end, it's going to come down to two things: action and mentality. And typically people tend to choose one or the other to get to change, which is the ultimate goal. Change for the better, right? To me, until the mentality changes, the actions that are taken will never lead to change. You have to really look at yourself and look at everything around you to decide, is this worth fighting for? Is this worth a change? And for me, when I look at all the issues that have been coming up, you know, with the Baltimore riots and, you know, with all the young people that have been victims of police brutality or seemingly unjustified homicide by police officer, you have to look at everything as a totality. You can't view one unique instance as a measure for everything. The same way that you look at criminals versus civilian versus population versus society, one bad person does not make the entire population bad, right? So to me, you never hear about the good, you always hear about the bad. So that mentality that you have from seeing on the news, from seeing anywhere else, it's going to stick in your head. That mentality that the police is bad because they do bad things, because that's all you see, when you never really know what it's truly like to be a police officer. You never truly know what the vast majority of police officers are like. And the honest truth is that we're all different. We all have human error. We all make mistakes. Some of them should never have been police officers to begin with. Some are very well deserved to be. But you can't make a generalization based off of one person. And to take that mentality that you have and turn it into an action that can either be positive or negative is completely on you. The whole rioting, looting, destruction, that's a negative action, honestly. The mentality of those people may be to create a positive change, by showing anger, by showing hatred, by showing disrespect to the powers that be, I guess you could say, it's it's not going to create a good change. If anything, it's going to make the powers that be want to flex their muscles more. Control is what is desired. Peaceful control is an ideal. One or the other has to come around. You need to turn that mentality. If you have a negative mentality, that's fine. I can completely understand that. Everybody is entitled to their own opinions. Use that as a fuel to turn a positive action to get towards positive change. Until that happens, nothing will change. Do I believe that police need to be kept in check? Absolutely. Just like anything else. You cannot let one power roam too freely. Because at that point, it can become a tyranny. At that point, powers become abused. At the same time, society as a whole needs to be kept in check as well. So for me, we as people are responsible as a whole, and I'm talking everybody. I'm not talking police or society or whoever. I'm talking every single person as a group, as Americans, for example. We have to come together as one cohesive unit to recognize that there's a problem, recognize that there needs to be a positive change, and recognize that there needs to be positive actions and a change in mentality. But in my opinion, that's what I believe. And while my heart goes out to all the victims of unjust and improper use of police power, I cannot condone the actions taken by rioters and by protesters, violent protesters. I just can't understand. So, regardless of whatever your opinion may be on this, I hope that at least in some way I've sparked a thought in your mind to give you a different viewpoint. And while I know my thoughts have been very, muddled and rambled about this, but I hope I made my point across at least in the slightest. And that's really all I'm looking to do in this series. I just want to implant a different idea, a different way of thinking, and how you take it and grow from that, or if you completely oppose me in that, that's 100% okay. And I just really want people to start thinking about these things instead of simply giving in to those negative feelings and acting negatively. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, give you something a little different to think about, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next Lord's Lessons. So, catch you later.